let's take some time now to look at what is happening across Ukraine. A devastating night there, one of the worst nights for the capital since the start of the full-scale invasion. Now we are hearing from Kyiv that 20 people were killed overnight in a wave of Russian drone and missile attacks. Damage and fires were reported in several districts. The city's mayor says more than 30 people have been taken to hospital after a drone damaged the top floor of an apartment building. That overnight attack, one of the largest bombardments since the beginning of the full-scale invasion more than 3 years ago. Joel Gunter reports now from the Ukrainian capital.
A wave of attacks against the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv, among the worst since the full-scale invasion began. Ukraine's air defences overwhelmed by the sheer number of drones. For 9 hours, Russia pounded the city through the night and into the morning. Across the city, residents awoke on Tuesday to scenes of destruction.
This is the scene of one of the worst strikes on Kyiv last night. A ballistic missile slammed into the building behind me at 4 a.m., destroying a huge section of it. Residents here told us the impact felt like the entire building was shattering to pieces. Just one of many scenes like this across the capital this morning.
Student Ilya was asleep inside when the missile hit. He escaped the burning building in a panic, he said, only wearing his underwear and t-shirt. Ukraine's Interior Minister Ihor Klimenko was at the scene of the strike this morning to see the destruction. He told the BBC the attacks amounted to terrorism against civilians.
Russia needs to be stopped from carrying out these terrorist attacks. We need to set conditions for Russia so that it cannot wage this war.
As world leaders meet today at the G7, for Ukraine, the intensity of these strikes will underscore the desperate need for ongoing support.
Joel Gunter there in Kyiv. Well, with me now is our news reporter Olga Malcheska. She's from Kyiv and she's been talking to the city mayor's office along with locals in the part of the city which has been affected. What's the mayor's office been telling you, Olga, after this devastating night?
Well, they're trying to count, obviously, the people who are not with us anymore, and they just told me that they managed to pull out of from under the rubble 5 more bodies, but it's not really clear if it adds to the total death toll or if it is just a part from...
We have some live pictures that we've been showing our viewers, and you can see an operation underway there. And what has been really heartbreaking, Olga, throughout the morning is to see the families of, people who have been killed or might be buried just standing there, watching to see what is going on. I mean, just an awful day for the city.
Absolutely. I was just seeing a couple, a mother and a father, who were sitting right next to the scene and trying to wait for their child who is still under the rubble. Obviously, such images are quite devastating. But I also have been talking to the locals, and my classmates sent me a couple of images. That is something people woke up to today in the morning. Well, to be fair, they didn't really sleep, but that's what they saw from their windows. And if we can show those stills right now, I can talk around them. Basically, you can see that there is not a filter. That is how Kyiv looked like in the morning, and that is created by the smoke from the missiles attack and drone attack, and that is somewhere very close to where I used to live, and as you know, my home had been bombed earlier around that area as well. And a
small child there sleeping in a corridor. This is where people go to stay safe?
Yes, that is a boy, primary school boy. His name is Zahar, and his parents put him in the corridor because they thought that if there is a drone attack, then people believe in Kyiv that it's possible to survive if you sleep between 2 walls, as they say. That is so-called rule of the 2 walls. So people try to put their children to the bathroom or in the corridor, because they say if the drone is attacking, then it blows up while it is approaching or during the first contact with any surface. So if someone is hiding between 2 walls, it is still possible to survive, because as you see, those buildings, it's quite difficult to go down to the basement.
Well, there's not time either, often, is there?
Exactly.
You only have a few minutes, and
yes,
sometimes a shelter can be 15 minutes away.
Exactly. So if you are on somewhere on the 10th floor, you have no chance really to go down to the basement, even if there is a basement. But in those old Soviet blocks of flats, or quite new blocks of flats, they don't really have those basements where people can hide. So that's the only opportunity they have, is to hide in the corridor.
And Olga, no one slept, obviously. It was such a horrible, noisy night. Everyone is sleep deprived. Are people also thinking of leaving Kyiv? Is that an option?
Well, I have a schedule of those attacks, as my friends told me. So the attack started at 9 p.m., then it lasted till 6 a.m. You can imagine that it's not possible, you know,
to get any
sleep. Yes, but people do try to sleep because it happens pretty much every night. Then there were 2 hours of sort of relative peace, and then from 8 a.m. it started again, and then they just had to get up and, you know, go to work or do whatever they need to do.
And Olga, people will be hearing, of course, in Ukraine that President Trump has left early from the G7. He's gone back to deal with the Middle East. So he is not meeting with President Zelensky. So this puts President Zelensky again in a really difficult position, that he isn't able to have an incredibly important meeting with President Trump to ask for more support, to ask for Patriot missiles.
Yes, exactly. And obviously everyone in Kyiv and across Ukraine are watching it quite closely, but also people understand that, you know, there is very little chance that the help is coming, and they have to sort of adjust to that reality. And the reality is that you can't take out 3 million people even just from Kyiv, you know, and imagine Ukraine is over 40 million people. So where would all those people go? And you asked me earlier if people are considering leaving that place. Well, some of them do consider, but also they consider where would they go and how would they manage to survive. They also have their children, they have their jobs. So even if they would consider, there is no really much chance to go somewhere, so they have to stay.
A difficult day, a difficult one for you too, Olga. Thank you.
Thank you so much.